This week in math, we are going to work on identifying variable and fixed expenses. So you're going to get some practice with this. You're going to work on a new pathway that I put in Imagine Math for you. It's called a financial literacy pathway. You'll complete an expenses report. You'll practice sorting and adding expenses on a stepping stones page. And then your assignment this week is going to be a problem-solving task that you will be turning into me. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we're focusing on financial literacy, and what we mean by financial literacy is just knowing how to spend and save money wisely. We really want to be teaching you guys how to become responsible adults with money. And today, for our lesson for this week, we're focusing on expenses. And what I mean by an expense is just money that we spend. So we're going to focus in on two different kinds of expenses, fixed and variable expenses. So a fixed expense is something that stays the same month to month or week to week. It's not going to change. So an example of a fixed expense would be like a house payment or an apartment rent. Mr. Davidson and I pay the same amount for our house every month, and we know exactly what we're going to pay because it's fixed. It's going to stay the same. Same thing with a car payment. When you buy a car, you're expecting I'm going to pay this amount every single month, and that's going to stay the same. The same with the cable bill. Unfortunately, our TV costs way too much right now, but we're paying the same amount every month. It's a fixed expense, so it's not changing. A variable expense is kind of the opposite of that. It's an expense that will change or vary depending on your choice. So like a water bill. When I was little, I used to get in trouble because I would leave the water running on accident, and my dad knew he was going to pay more. So water bill is something that is variable. It will change depending on how much water you're using for that month. A grocery bill is a variable expense. So I try not to go to the grocery store when I'm hungry, because if I go when I'm hungry, I'm going to spend a lot more on snacks and junk food than if I go on a full stomach. I won't spend as much. So that's variable. It's going to change depending on what I need or how hungry I am. And then things like gas. Sometimes I don't have time, or I don't want to pay all the money to fill my tank, so I'm just going to buy a little bit of gas. Sometimes I drive to New Braunfels and I have 2 tanks of gas in a week, and my gas bill is a lot more for that month. So gas expense will change depending on how much you need it. There are some expenses that we see that can fall into both categories, just depending on your plan. So an example of this is your phone bill. I pay the same amount every single month for my phone. So for me, the phone bill is a fixed expense. But some people pay depending on how much they use their phone. So for them, they have a variable expense for their phone bill. It changes depending on how much they use their phone. A gaming plan could kind of work that way as well. I know my brother, when we were little, he had an Xbox Live subscription, and he would pay, I think it was $10 every month. That was a fixed expense. But some of you guys may have a gaming subscription where you pay more to access different things. And so that would be a variable expense depending on what you want. So those are the 2 types of expenses that we're looking at this week. Fixed, those expenses that are going to stay the same month to month, week to week. And then variable, those expenses that will change depending on what you need or what you want. What you are going to be turning into me this week, kind of your final assignment, is a problem-solving task. So you have this question. Don't forget, just like we do in class, I really want you to show your thinking. This is what I'm going to be looking for from you. I want to see how you solved. I want to see your strategies, maybe what didn't work. What did you do to solve this problem? And lastly, I want you to justify your answer. So after you solve, write a little bit. How do you know your answer is correct? Go ahead and solve that for me. I'm excited to see your responses. You'll put these into Flipgrid. You guys are awesome.